Okay, so let's take a look at a variety of enhancements that have happened in simulation in 2011. First one we're going to look at is some improvements in assistance when we have meshing problems. And I'm going to force this one to actually fail. Obviously there's lots of components of different size in here, so trying to do a compatible mesh with the standard mesher is going to cause some grief. So you see we've got a failed component. Now when you get a failed component, before it was up to you to manually go through and try and use tools to identify where the problems were. Now that we have a automated system using the simulation advisor to help diagnose the problem and reach a solution. So we can leave it as is and go back and try to do things manually, or we use the mesh failure diagnostics. So the mesh failure diagnostics will actually highlight potential areas on the model. So we'll indicate features on the model which are causing problems. For example, you could go back and try an incompatible mesh. In this instance for the knuckle, what I want to do is try a mesh control. And you'll see there's a new feature here which is to create a mesh on completion. What this does is we'll actually just mesh the failed part. Anything that's already meshed will stay meshed. So we just click on OK, and just like that we have our new component meshed and fully connected to the rest of the system. So that's a real time saver for models with large numbers of components where you might have one or two components that fail and you just want to get them fixed. If a part has failed in the release, you'll be able to right click here and get access to create the mesh on the failed part as well. Alright, let's have a look at some of the geometry improvements that we've seen, selection and feedback in simulation. You'll find that when you add fixtures now, we're getting much better visualization with our symbols. So it's based so that when you pick a face or an edge or a vertex, there's going to be a difference in the icon types. So with a face, it's over the entire face, with an edge just on the edge, and with a vertex just on the vertex, and so on. Same thing with forces. So if we do an applied force, for example, representing the brake rotor loads, and we'll just use that face for the geometry. You'll notice that we get nice force displays on the faces as well. So there's been quite a bit of effort done to try and make the symbols more intuitive and scalable as well. So it doesn't. It makes it clearer how we've set up the model. All right, let's take a look at another element that we've spent a lot of time on, and that's in the report generation. In 2010 earlier, we had a very nice report generation tool, but it didn't have all the detail that some people were after. So we've added a lot of more options for the detail it can control, as well as the custom things we can do. Before we show that, one thing I did like to show is in 2011 now, if you want to turn your symbols off, very simple, just a single filter option now, which is a great time saver. Right, with the report generation tool, you'll see that the wizard is completely new in how it goes through and captures the model. We also have the ability to add our own custom images, which we could do before, but now we've got a lot more flexibility. There's an issue in beta where it's not showing the preview icon here, but you can actually categorize where you want to store that image in the results of the report. So it's very flexible to include customization, which is important because with any automated system it's hard to capture everything you're after. If you have a look at the definition of the report, you'll see there's a few new areas in here. For example, with connectors for like bolts, there's a lot more detailed information. We now support beams and sensors, and you'll get all the results for those objects very neatly put in the report as well. Now it takes a couple of minutes to export this out, and it's we might as well do that. We'll just let it go through. You'll see it, and then we'll show the other report while it's doing that. So you see what it does is it captures what's going on the screen and highlighting the appropriate components. So if there's material properties, it'll have that part highlighted. New in Beta 1 is a zoom fit feature, so that for selected items like contacts and connectors, it will zoom to fit the screen, so it tries to capture it as best it can. As I said, it won't solve every single scenario for that, so that's where the custom images are helpful in doing that. Alright, so while that's doing that, let's go look at a finished report. So here's the new layout of the report. So you've got a table of contents with hyperlinks to different sections. Nice study. You can add your own logos, company name, etc. as you could before. Nice overview graphics, and then it'll highlight the different components, tell you what the properties of those components are, the location and dates of the components. So it's trying to capture everything that you need to duplicate the work that you've done in this report. Solver settings, units, etc. There's the material properties for the different components. And here's where it gets a lot more useful information. So for our different fixtures, it'll highlight the features utilized for those fixtures. There's our load. Again, they try to put a little bit of color into the table, so identify fixtures versus loads and so on. Here's an additional item I put in there, which is highlighting the restraints and the load on the system. For connectors, you'll see it's zooming in to highlight the connector location, and if I had the symbols on it, would show those. And then it also summarizes results there, so you can see what our desired factor of safety is versus the actual factor of safety for that particular pin connector. So that's a really nice improvement in having the results in association with the actual entities, so it's always easy to match up what's going on there. Now I don't have any beams in this model. Another thing you can do is display all the annotations, in this case where all the connectors are and what their material is. Oh, this one finally finished. Go back to the other one. As well as the contacts and so on. So it is quite a detailed report to capture all that information. The mesh and then the results. So you can see it. We see a symbol and we get a summary of the min and maxes, which is also very useful. And at the very end, we should have a summary of a zoomed in picture that I did. So, as I said, there's been a lot of work done to try and increase the fidelity we provide in reports for our users, yet still make it flexible enough that you can tailor it to your needs. One area of improvement in 2011 for simulation is in performance, and that's going to impact everyone. So let's take a look at some of those capabilities. On the nonlinear side, preliminary testing is showing at about a 20% reduction in the solve time for nonlinear runs, which, if you have a very complex model, that can be a significant time reduction. Part of that is attributable to some more efficient ways of setting up the model, so the number of equations to account for the nonlinearity is reduced. But the biggest area that people are going to really benefit from is with meshing. Everyone has a quad core, dual core, or 8 CPUs, so they're going to benefit from the improvements we get with multi-threading in 2011. So you can see that we get basically a 60% reduction in the mesh time. This is averaged over 8 to 10 models that were done in testing. So that's a great benefit for those people that have got multiple CPUs now. So it's more tailored, just so to be aware, for models that have multiple components, so you can mesh those in parallel. For a single bodied model, it's probably not going to get that same level of benefit. But anyway, meshing and nonlinear solve times are two great areas of improvement in 2011.